The reason why I'm showing this to you is to show you our journey, who we are, and why do we have a huge need for analytics portal, and how we actually implemented it. So that was who CCP is, and then a little bit the history in here. So we started many years ago bottling Coca-Cola. We are a different company than the Coca-Cola company, which is let's say the company that sells the syrup to the bottlers. So you can think of this as a kind of like a franchise system. So we're the biggest bottler in the world, and because of this, we have merged quite a lot in the history. So, for example, in Germany in the late 90s, we had dozens and dozens of bottlers, and even in the early 20s, we had more of a dozen of bottlers. As you can imagine, with these mergers, we get different BI systems, we get different technologies, we get different reports, and we also get, at the end of the day, a little bit more difficulty of accessing those reports. And I imagine some of you will also relate to these mergers and acquisitions. This brings us to a huge BI challenge, finding reports, especially. Um, there is an interesting study which McKinsey conducted some time ago, which was that employees spend 2 hours a day just searching for information. This is quite a lot of information, so this process is not very efficient. In my organization, we have thousands of employees, we have thousands of reports in different technologies, mainly in Power BI, in Tableau. So what happens is when a company has access to a report, they save that link in their browser, or they receive the link to those reports via email. Or there's also sometimes, I call it group pockets of group reports just with list of links to reports. Obviously, that's not very scalable. So at this stage, there is no way to discover new reports. So if you don't know that a report exists, then the chance that that will result in a report duplication is huge there. And even if you get a URL to an existing report, if you just get an error message saying you don't have access, then you didn't win a lot with that. You still need to find a person that explains to you how to request access to that specific report. And this is why an analytics catalog can serve as a great one-stop shop for not only accessing, but also searching, discovering, and also requesting permissions to reports. And you're going to see a demo of the different features in a minute. How did we arrive to implementing the analytics portal? We first tried to build this in-house. We actually had some SharePoint programmers try to build this in SharePoint. It actually worked, so it's not very scalable, but you have somewhere a list of links to reports. But if you think about big companies and about scalability, then it's actually not a very good solution. Of course, you can implement even in a PDF. It's just very hard to maintain that, to transfer to people. It's just not a very good solution. So we are now in year one of the implementation of the analytics catalog. It has been a success so far. And I have bits and pieces here of videos where you will see actually our implementation. It's just a little bit anonymized, so don't mind if it's something blurred. That is actually a real system. So in the first video that I'm going to show you about our implementation, you're going to see how do we search for reports and how do we access those reports. So in this example, we're easily searching for reports using a quick search, where you just type in anything. And with anything, I mean not only the title of the report, but also the business description that you have curated in the system, or even KPIs or anything related to that metadata of the report. So when you say search for reports and finding for reports, there's different levels of complexity and different levels of quality in here. So when you search for this, you're actually searching a broad metadata which is curated in the system. You can also search for KPIs. So in this example, we're selecting one KPI, and then the system is bringing all of the reports with that specific KPI. which is also useful when you don't know how the report is called, but that the report contains a specific KPI. And then opening a report is very straightforward. Apologies, I just hit next on that one. And opening reports is very straightforward. It's just clicking on the thumbnail, and then the report will open embedded in the portal, showing that metadata, the certification status that Marius was mentioning before, and in our example, KPIs. I don't have this here in this video, but when you click on the KPIs, you actually see the definitions of that KPI. And in the links related to that report, you will also find links to our data catalog, where we have more information about that KPI. So that was the video number 1. And then in the video number 2, we're changing the paradigm from search and find to discover. So this is where you don't necessarily have already access to that report, but when you're entering a discoverability mode, where you're searching for something where you know you don't have access to yet. So I'm going to play the video now. On the top of the portal, then you will see that there is a sentence saying there is some more reports where you can show them. Just let me pause here. So here is the show them. If you click on there, then you're switching from only viewing thumbnails of reports where you already have access, which is also good because you don't want to overload people. But when you want to access this discoverability mode, you just click on that show reports over there, and that will make the reports appear where you don't have access. If you click on any of those thumbnails, which is clearly mentioned that you don't have access to yet, then you will see metadata of the report. This helps the people understand if this is the report where they want to request access. So we expose metadata of the report, we expose KPIs, we also expose who to contact. In this case, is Blur, but you can imagine in our organizations, so obviously not Blur. And we also offer other information about this report. Even how to request access to reports in general. And then the last point, and then the most important piece for me personally, is a direct link to request access to that report. In this case, we have an integration with our identity management system, which is SailPoint. So in this case, when you click on that direct link, then you will be very easily to request access because the needed role is already pre-selected for you. So you only need to hit next, and then hopefully, not shown in this video, but hopefully adding a request or a reasoning behind that request. Why would you like to have access to this report? Then we come to the conversational AI assistant of the solution. This is a part of the portal. We implemented a page in Metric Insights. This is called a portal page that allows not only to search for reports, but it also allows you to ask for KPI definitions, and it also allows you to access information which is related to BI. Like, for example, who needs a BI license for tool 1 or tool B, or what is the process to get a new report created, or anything on those likes. And this is the absolutely value added of an LLM. So an LLM can not only help users find reports in a more natural way, which is using natural language, but also adds information on that. I also have a video of this feature here. Let me hit on the play button. In this case, we have pre-selected questions. This is something that you can personalize. So if the finance department access to this page, then you can have example of the most frequently asked questions in the finance department, and the most important links of the finance department, for example. And in this case, I'm now hitting the define the production volume KPI. I'm just clicking on the example question here, but obviously you can type it in as well. And when you're clicking on that, then the LLM is giving that information. If I may pause here for a second, I ask for one KPI definition, And then the system, this is blurred, but bear with me. But the system is actually giving me the descriptions of 3 different KPIs because the system recognized the semantic similarity between the metric that I was asking for and 2 other metrics in the system. So it gave me a generic answer, which is that something that ChatGPT would give you. It's answering in the context of my organization with links to our data catalog where you can find more information about this report. So absolutely value added in comparison to searching for a KPI. That was one example, and then the other example is obviously you can also use it to search for reports using natural language. So in here you just type in search for a keyword, and then the system will give you back the reports with reports thumbnails and also with a description of the report, some metadata of it, to allow you to see if this is the report what you're looking for. If you don't have access to the report, then it will bring that page where you can access for request to that report. One very important thing, which I truly believe, is in future we're going to see more and more LLMs embedded into more and more applications. And what we should not allow to happen is that each application contains a different knowledge set to that LLM. So the way to tackle that is basically to share the knowledge of those LLMs together, and that is done in Azure. We use Azure. In Azure, it's called a search index, and with that, you can just tap into that index, and with that index, you can grab information from a whole different set of sources. So you could add here, and I was just talking about an example before from a project that you have in your organization, a very big one. So you will be able to chat with your LLM about the project. What is the project about? Who is involved in the project? And so on and so forth. Most important watch out that we found in our implementation, and this is not specifically for the portal implementation, but in general. But we also found it was the most important one to watch out for the portal implementation. Generative artificial intelligence hallucinations. So sometimes the system can tell you something which is not necessarily true. So the way that we tackle and then the way that we make it really transparent for users is first, just in the start page, as any AI, this might generate incorrect information from time to time. And also in the answers that you get from that LLM, you can do this with custom instructions in also many other systems, is basically mentioning where is this information coming from. So if you're asking about KPI, it is really important to know, is this based on general knowledge that ChatGPT can give you, or is it based on my organizational knowledge that I added to this LLM using an index behind the scenes? And as a last slide I have here with me today is a summary slide of the most important topics, so to say, that I find when we implemented the portal. So the first one is a portal should be able to give easily access to reports to your employees. And this is the most let's say basic one, the most easy one to achieve. You click on a thumbnail, you open a report, and then hopefully that it's embedded, because you don't want to lose that user. You want him to keep in the technology as much as you can, so that he can also enjoy from other reports as well, related reports. Finding reports, this one sounds easy, but it's actually more complex behind the scenes, because what you definitely need is a good set of metadata curated to that report. So you can embed into that report things like business routines, like metrics, like target audience persona, so that when people are searching for that actually they're going to come back, or the system will come back with the reports related to that. Next one is the discoverability of reports. This one is at the end of the day also very important to avoid things like report duplication, which Marius was mentioning before. So it is important that those reports are made discoverable. Obviously, you don't want everything to be discoverable, but most of the content you do want to have discoverable in your system. And also key here is a good integration with your identity management system, with that ServiceNow, or in our case, with SailPoint, where it's just a 2 or 3 click process from discovering that report to actually requesting access to that report. Then the next one, the right reports for the right audience. I saw it in the video before. I didn't mention it in the video before. I'm mentioning this now. This is very, very important. Our users, when they access the catalog, they just don't get a huge list of reports. They get the list of reports which are more relevant to them. And we do this on a combination of business function and country. So if I am from the commercial organization in Germany, then I see always in the top the most used report in the commercial organization for Germany. This is something that we curate behind the scenes, which works very nice, because basically you can send one link to the portal to any user, and he will actually already see on the top left the most important report for him. So this is a customized experience. We can also use the portal to access metric definitions. This was the example with Concierge and with the LLM, where you can ask questions about metrics. And this we do with an integration with our data catalog, where we have this information. And then the last point is to tap not only into reports, existing reports, and discovering reports, but also into surrounding BI processes. Like, do I need a license for accessing X report, or how do I get a report created in my organization? How to contact the BI team? Anything related on those likes, so that for your users is when they think about reports, they just go to the portal, they will find the information they need, even if this is not a specific report.